Well, good evening, everybody. This is John Haller with our next prophecy roundtable on technocracy, transhumanism, AI, mark of the beast technology, and other topics. So I'm joined tonight, as usual, by Patrick Wood, Pete Garcia, Scott Townsend, and Britt Gillette. We exchange a lot of ideas back and forth as we're preparing for these, and we have a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight, especially since we haven't done one for 2 months. So guys, welcome, and let's get started. I want to start off with a clip of I think it helps encapsulate a little bit where we are. And now I'm not, where did my, excuse me 1 second. My clip disappeared. Well, anyway, I'll try to find it and I'll play it, but hang on a second here. It's probably in my trash. Okay. Okay, here we go. I think this will work. Can you guys hear that?
No.
Can you guys hear that?
No. There should be a pass-through option.
Yeah. So anyway, let me just summarize for it. So Sam Altman was interviewed last week on a podcast called Relentless, and he said that we have achieved the singularity is one of the things that he said. Now, I don't know. I'll ask you if that's hype. And then he also said that the first thing he noted that we've done is we've created a genie where you can get everything you wish for. So comments.
Where to start?
Where to start? Oh my gosh.
So first of all, that AI bubble is real. And Sam Altman is particularly vulnerable to that. They deferred based on their CFO, the recommendation to IPO later this year. And she's not included in some of these strategic meetings nowadays. That is not good. So, I think that he's scrambling to communicate to the market value proposition. And it's a little bit of, smoke and mirrors at this point. This idea that AI is sentient or that it is, artificial general intelligence has arrived and we're in it, is what he said. That is just beyond the pale. That is just not right. So I don't agree with his, his perspective on it. And the market is, I think, about ready to severely punish the AI bubble hype train. I've been noticing that NVIDIA has been stepping up majorly, including funding, what is it, $250 billion for a Meta facility coming up, I think it is. And so they're circular. Britt, I think you've talked about this before. The investment cycle is circular. It's within NVIDIA, it goes to OpenAI, it goes to Anthropic, and they're just chewing on each other's dog food right now. And it's absolutely surreal to see, I would say, the lack of critical thinking from a financial stability point of view as to why this is not a good idea and why OpenAI is now trying to get the U.S. government, AKA us taxpayers, to basically support an opening round at 5%, sovereign AI, too big to fail type thing.
Yeah, I will say, I want to say that Sam Altman he's on the ropes right now. He has big trouble. He sees it coming. He said formally that he wanted the government to be the backstop for AI build out. And now he's offered the government 5% stake in the company. That would virtually guarantee that the government would have to bail him out at some point.
That's right.
And that's one thing. But Sam Altman hasn't told the truth for so many years at this point, in my opinion. And the hype he's trying to pawn off now, well, it really doesn't matter what the investment stuff is. Even if we run out of money, it doesn't matter, because the singularity is right ahead, and you'll see when everything goes vertical, everything's going to change, everything's going to collapse, all prosperity forever, and we'll all live happily ever after. That's just a bald-faced speculation, totally. So he's in big trouble, and I think this is a symptom at this point. When he gets in trouble, he's going to pump out some other narrative to make us think, oh, everything's going to be out. All right, just wait for it.
So let me try to. I'm going to try to play his video again. Let's see if this works this time.
1, we are close to creating a genie that can grant any wish. Number 2, we are going to make sure that our first wishes broadly benefit humanity, and that we kind of get the world to a place where a lot more people get to have a lot more wishes. And number 3, the space of what you can wish for is incredibly big and creative, and it'll be quite exciting to figure that out with real sort of human values and preferences. But I think there's a fourth thing too, which is exactly that. You start making these wishes, the computer grants them, and then you're like, I didn't think that was going to work.
Yeah.
What now? It's a weird feeling.
Okay.
Gosh. Incredible.
How about Pete? What do you think, Pete?
Well, I think honestly right now that technology is going to plateau, just like the smart devices began to plateau in the late teens, and AI is the shiny new bubble. And I think that is also going to plateau at a certain point. I don't think we're going to see singularity as we think of it until after the rapture of the church. So I think that after the rapture, that this stuff's going to take off. I think what we're watching right now is just all of the infrastructure being built. That goes for the AI data centers, that goes for the rare earth minerals and securing the resources and the land to get those places. All of this stuff is preparatory for what's coming. And we know that the beast kingdom is eventually going to come, and it's going to need all of these things. And it's not going to be hindered by the restraining influence of the Holy Spirit or the church, or, just the unavailability of certain resources because of geopolitics. But so right now they're trying to keep the hype going. They're trying to keep the excitement going over AI. And I mean, we can't argue. I mean, nobody here can argue that AI has not made leaps and bounds over the last just 2 years. So it is going, but I don't think it's going to get to the place that they're trying to sell it as until after the rapture.
You might have seen he talked about magic.
Yes.
Having wishes granted by a genie.
Yeah.
This is kind of a new thing for him, even for him, I think. Really? A magic show now? Where magic is going to appear to fulfill everybody's dreams. This is absolutely insane. This is occultic, if nothing else.
It's on par with what Satan said in the Garden of Eden: you won't die and you'll be just like God, right? So these are the things that they're promising in Silicon Valley with these technologies. And we're definitely not in the singularity now. I think it's important to really try to define that. I think, Patrick, you did a really good job with just saying it's vertical, right? So in an exponential curve, the singularity is the point where the curve goes vertical. And no doubt we're on an exponential curve in terms of technological advancement, but we're nowhere near vertical. If the world were at that point, you would sit here on Wednesday and say, wow, the world looks so much different than it did on Monday. I can't even keep up. That's how fast change would be. So this is a lot of hype. I think we will get something similar to what he's saying, but that's going to take whole new technologies where right now AI is an algorithm in a computer. A genie could, in theory, right, could give me something in the physical realm. We will get to that with molecular manufacturing, as Pete said, probably on the other side of the rapture. In fact, I think almost certainly on the other side of the rapture, not anytime right now. So we're certainly not in it. In the meantime, I think all of this is going to follow on the same way that the dot-com boom did, the same way the railroad boom did, and that everyone could recognize how transformative this technology would be. And you had massive overinvestment, poor allocation of resources. And you had a lot of railroads go bankrupt. You had a lot of these unprofitable internet companies go bankrupt. And then later on, we saw in the years that come, the promises fulfilled of what people, reasonable people were saying at those times that those technologies would do. But I think, as Scott said, I think we're on the cusp of seeing this bubble burst. If you look in South Korea, so South Korea's market, it's called KOSPI. That's similar to the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ here in the United States. That market doubled from 2025 to 2026, mostly based on SK Hynix and Samsung and the promise of AI. So 100% return in a year, and that peaked June 19th, so just 40 days ago. And since then, it's down 39.7%. So imagine if your retirement account went down 39.7% in the last 40 days. So they are experiencing a crash very much like, in fact, I would say in many cases, worse than what we saw in 1929 on Wall Street. I think it's around 3% of the adult population in South Korea received a margin call a week and a half ago, meaning they got a call from their broker saying, put up more cash or we're selling everything in your account. And many of those people were completely wiped out, if not left owing money on the other side. So this, I think we're going to see this ripple through global markets, especially with the energy shock that we're seeing. And it's going to get very interesting very quickly.
So, Britt, are they down 39% from the 100% growth thing?
Yeah, so from the all-time high, which was an intraday high on the 19th, I think on the 22nd was the closing high. But yes, they're still up for the year. But if you're one of those people who received a margin call.
That's what my financial advisor would say.
Yeah. If you're one of those people that received a margin call, you're wiped out. So that doesn't give you much comfort to know, hey, the market's up, but you've been wiped out, right? So we've seen a lot of speculation there. Again, very similar to what we saw in 1929, where everyone, there was this frenzy of people. Groucho Marx, I believe, lost everything in the stock market at that time because he had bought on margin based on what his broker had told him. And so we're seeing history repeat itself because people haven't learned those lessons.
So I want to share a screen here. This is an article from the Wall Street Journal a couple weeks ago. And I only say this because it's local. And I want to talk about this a little bit because of data centers and the enormous growth of data centers everywhere. I see these. I get sent pictures by people all the time, and it's all over the world. But this one's sort of local. This is down south of Columbus, a little over an hour in near a town called Piketon. Piketon was one of the major nuclear enrichment facilities for nuclear weapons. That's been closed down for a while. And I'm kind of wondering if there's some kind of connection between that very large facility, and then what they're talking about, they're saying the build out will take a while, but essentially NVIDIA is going to, I guess, backstop a loan to OpenAI for $250 billion to build out this data center. And it says in total, the project could cost more than $500 billion. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it. I mean, we live in the Columbus, Ohio area, and out in New Albany and to the northeast part of, well, all over town, there's data centers. Amazon, they're spending $19 billion to upgrade their data centers, and Google spent $10 billion, and Meta spent multiple billions of dollars. And it's kind of hard to wrap your head around the cost of these data centers. And so I guess I just wonder, maybe Britt, you can start. Where is this all going? I guess how are they doing this, and where does it end?
Well, I think where it goes is a big bust. As Scott said, a lot of this is circular financing, and you can even see it there in that headline. NVIDIA is essentially saying, hey, OpenAI, we're going to loan you money to buy our products, right? And so you see all these credits and circular financing going on. Again, we saw this with telecoms back in the .com bubble, where there was this huge build out of fiber optic cable and for things that were never needed. There was a lot of money thrown at it. Again, we saw it with railroads, a lot of railroad track laid, maybe not efficiently. A lot of those companies went out of business, and then there were some companies that survived that, or new ones that emerged in the aftermath of that, picked up all of that infrastructure for pennies on the dollar and moved forward with it. I think based on how these data centers have been operating, I don't think this is sustainable in the long run in terms of the energy that's being used. So they would have to become much more efficient. So we'd have to see technologies become much more efficient in terms of power use and also water use. Because we hear a lot about the power use from these facilities, but the water that's needed for cooling is coming from a lot of these communities. In many cases, they don't have it. So I don't see this lasting much longer until people realize all of these are promises that are made that can't be fulfilled. I mean, OpenAI is just burning cash in ways that we've never seen before. So the idea that they'll eventually be able to pay for this is the math just isn't there. It's just not there. So what can happen won't happen. But in the meantime, while this narrative continues to be taken seriously, we'll see this move forward until the time comes when it just can't move forward.
I even think that the premise is flawed at this point, not recognizing advances in computational efficiency. So, for example, why do you need a million plus, square meter facility if the current algorithms yield, 5x improvement on performance? And then you've got Cerebras that has advanced chip design that is also 10x faster than previously. And anytime you see a performance boost, whether it's algorithmic or through a chip design, that implies and means that it is more efficient, faster, and less energy demand, per answer. It's not even by token anymore. They're beginning to measure AI by the completion. So it could be 1 million tokens in that completion, but the cost benchmarks that they're doing now, the tokens are so huge, they don't even use those anymore. It took what they're doing on the benchmarks is they're saying that this benchmark cost $11.03 to do. And then they know how to compare it with the other models. So it is kind of, by the way, the good news for them is that the nuclear energy side of it just had a major breakthrough with a new small form factor nuclear reactor that's portable, has just come online, and it's going through regulatory approvals right now. So if that's true, you can power a data center, just put one of these little nukes there and you're done. Even all this idea of putting Tesla battery packs outside and all the natural gas stuff that they're using to power these things, or even drawing it off the normal grid, that window could be closing over a period of time. But this was under one of Trump's initiatives to stoke up nuclear development again. And it's working. It was a very successful, very quick iteration. I think it took these guys less than 3 years to put a reactor together like that and make sure it worked.
Did they use AI to do that?
No, not that I know of. It was, the nuclear energy has been around for decades. So
Right.
I don't think they need that. But it was just thinking outside of the box. So this thing you could put on a semi truck and just move it, fire it up, and it's self-contained. It's incredible. They just won. I think they won that competition, whatever it was. So I'm not prepared to talk in depth about it, but it was very cool what they did. And so the energy issue is being solved. And I think the water problem, in fact, I just read that a neighborhood is suing a AI, presumably an AI or some kind of data center, because of the noise pollution on the community. I think we're going to see a lot of this pushback. I think people are waking up to, you've heard the account of the brown water that the community is having when they're trying to open up their spigot in their home, and the water quality is deplorable now because the AI or the data centers, I don't know if it's an AI data center or not, but it's affecting people's communities, and that's not sustainable, obviously, over a period of time.
But Patrick, I know you've got some pretty big data centers out there in Arizona, as I recall, and you don't have any water anymore.
Don't we ever?
What do you mean? You don't have water, or you have data centers, or both?
It's crazy. Why did they want to build it here in the first place? Yeah, we don't have any water to spare. If we're lucky, in 5 years, we'll still having water out of our spigot, perhaps for drink. And at this point, it looks very, very bleak because the Colorado River is so low now that we're sharing just glassfuls of water with California, Mexico, Arizona. It's crazy. Nevada as well. It's going to be really tough going forward. So the data centers in Arizona are drawing water out of the aquifer, and go figure. Our aquifer is drying up, and the water table is going down like a rock. And they think this is a good thing. Our city planners think it's a good thing too. I don't know what they're thinking. I really don't know what they're thinking. But in Mesa, Arizona, we have, I counted, there's over 15 major data centers being built right now. And Arizona overall is number 7 in the country. Go figure.
Just a comment on the aquifers. And by the way, thank you, Arizona, for all the water we get to water our pistachios and walnuts, by the way. So
and lettuce.
We have aquifer problems in California also.
Oh, yes.
And so one of the things that I learned a year or two ago when this topic began to be really urgent was, if the aquifer drains to a certain point, the water level goes down inside that porous rock or sandstone, whatever it is, and there's an earthquake, hello, California, and it compacts the aquifer structure and compresses it down, it'll never fill again. There's no more water capacity to hold anymore. And so it's a devastating set of conditions that could happen when the water's in the aquifer. It supports that structure. When it's gone, there's nothing to hold it, you know. So it's a very serious problem, and that's just a probability at this point. Have you guys noticed how many earthquakes we're having?
Yeah, big time.
So let's kind of, so maybe we can go a couple different directions, because I mean, one, do we agree that this is this whole tech thing that we're seeing is building the infrastructure for the coming beast system? Do we?
Yes.
I think. Do we agree on that?
Absolutely.
I used to have a law professor who used to go, now we have to be in agreement before we move forward on this. Does everybody agree? And then somebody would say, well, I'm not. And then he would hammer them for the next 2 hours in class. And a lot of times people that would be the last time you would see him in that class. It's pretty brutal. It was fun to watch as long as it wasn't you. But so I guess the thing that I have trouble wrapping my mind around is that all of this is bits and bytes, you know, ones and zeros, right? And why does it take so many data centers? And I've seen inside the meta ones out here in New Albany, and it's just each building is as long. So they're about 60 feet high. It's about 6 stories high. And I don't know how wide they are, but they're as long as the Empire State Building is tall, like laying on its side in a field. And it's just building after building after building. And it's all racks of servers and computers. And I'm trying to wrap my head around why do they need that much to do what they're doing? And maybe you guys can talk about that. And how does this play into our end times scenario?
It's really interesting to me that there's no mass associated with data. You could take, if it were possible, take all the data in the world and put it in a sugar cube. The sugar cube would weigh the same as before, but there's no mass in data at all. So all of these physical things are being built to handle all this data that has no mass. It has to be stored on hard disks, which never gets full of mass. It's insane. So what they're saying is, well, it's not about the data. The data is just like an illusion. But the machines that they need to handle all this data, they're going to fill the not just the room, but the world with them. It's really a interesting thing to think about. But smoke and built mirrors at this point. Some of these data centers are never going to get built. Some of these data centers are going to be torn down or just abandoned. Some of them likely will stay, but they'll be full of obsolete equipment in 2 years. They'll never be rebuilt or repopulated with new architecture, chip architecture. There won't be enough money to retrofit. Where are they now? Well, they're between a rock and a hard place, but nevertheless, they have enough horsepower right now to control everything in the world. Apparently, all the Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies, Internet of Everything, etc. It can all be controlled, and all the trading on the New York Stock Exchange, all the financial system, etc. There's enough horsepower right now to take all of that into account.
Mr. Garcia.
It's funny to me how this, I know Aaron Brockovich has taken up the case on bringing all these, lawsuits against these different AI data centers because of their noise pollution, light pollution, the impact they're having on communities. When these things get put into a community the resale value of those homes immediately drop. I mean, the impacts on the water. I know there was an AI data center in Kentucky that when the water came in from the river, it went through, did all the cooling and everything it was doing, but when it got released back into the river, it was like 15 degrees hotter. So what are the impacts to that whole ecosystem and the fish and everything else that live on there and everything that's dependent upon that river? So it seems almost it belies credulity, if you can think about it that way, that we will not build a oil refinery. I don't think there's been an oil refinery built in the U.S. since the 70s that can handle the kind of oil that we have under our soil. And yet at the same time, they will willingly throw trillions of dollars at building all of these things that just eat into all the resources, eat into the environment, have all of these disastrous ramifications to them. So why is this push so hard, and why are they willing to risk everything to get all these things built? And I think, I don't know if it's Trump or it's this administration or just, it's this illusion of what you guys talked about at the outset, that we are going to win this AI race, and yet we're going to get to artificial superintelligence first, or we're going to get to artificial general intelligence first, or whatever the metric is for success in this, because this is a winner takes all race. There's no second place. There's no mutually assured destruction. There's no anything else. They've been sold on this idea that whoever gets there first is going to dominate the rest of the world. So they must be looking at the long-term gains from just completely devastating their economy and their environment in order to win the overarching geopolitical race to dominate planet Earth. And so that's the only thing I can think of. But I think things will plateau prior to the rapture. And I think that what we'll see after the rapture is a merger of the supernatural into this technology that will get these companies over their hump, and they will get them to whatever the system is, the final system that the beast kingdom is going to be using, which may be a blending of quantum and just regular computing power, as well as then throwing in artificial intelligence on top of that. But the thing is now all the infrastructure is being built, and they just seem that they're being driven to make these data centers like they've got spiritual masters behind them with whips, just driving them to get this stuff done at any cost. And it's strange to see this. It's strange to see that just a few years ago, everybody was up in arms about the environment, and now that's just like that's all thrown out the window, and they're going to build these things regardless of what anybody thinks. And they're doing it in the most ridiculous places. Like if you have to keep all these systems really cool, why don't you put them in colder climates? All the data centers just up in rent out some land or buy out some land from Canada or something. Why are
Alaska?
we doing this?
To U.S. State,
Yeah. Why Arizona? Why Texas? Why out in the middle of West Texas where it's like super hot, or in the South, the deep South? Like, why are you doing it in the hottest places instead of doing it in places environmentally where it makes sense?
Could that be because where you have a lot of people, you have more utilities and stronger power grids?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think some of it is latency, depending on what the purpose of it is. So, for instance, there are actual skyscrapers close to Wall Street that are data centers. They were old buildings that were hollowed out years ago, and they're filled with racks because physically, the closer you are to that action, even if it saves you a nanosecond, that gives you a competitive advantage over your rivals who might, say, be in Alaska. So there's a latency issue there that may drive some of that. But yes, it makes a little sense to build these things in hotter areas. But I think you hit on something, Pete, that really is interesting. Like, what is driving them? Seems like there's something spiritual driving all of this. And I made a note on some of the articles that we were sharing prior to the roundtable, but this comment that Sam Altman made. He was quoted in an article as saying, I've been waiting for this my whole life. This is in reference to the singularity. And I think it's going to be incredible, hugely positive, and awesome for the world. And someone could say that I said that about the second coming of Jesus Christ, because I would agree with that on the second coming. he looks at that as the singularity. That's what I'm looking forward to. And he's not alone. There's a religious fervor surrounding what they believe is coming. And so people like Ray Kurzweil, for years, he's openly talked about modifying his diet, his exercise routine to stay alive long enough to be part of the singularity. And then he thinks he'll be immortal. So it really takes on occultic type themes when you look at what a lot of the people pushing all of this are focused on and what they desire. So I think there is a spiritual element to this that is pushing people to do all of this.
Yeah, I remember Dr. Hickson, in the spirit of the Antichrist, he talks about competing Luciferian elite that are not well coordinated necessarily, that overlap and are trying to outmaneuver each other. And therefore, you'll see, I would say, conflicts occurring in the agenda for how do you get to the beast system. And he's right. I think he's absolutely right about that. You see these conflicts going on. It doesn't make any sense. And Pete, I think your idea about this being, I think you're dead right. This is a spiritual manifestation right now. I think you just nailed that, because I don't know that we've said that before in the Tech Roundtable yet. But I think this is what's happening. There's the Antichrist kingdom knows the time is coming, and they're looking at all the stuff. All the precursors for the beast system are largely done, and all the financial controls and currencies and wallets and all that stuff are largely proven. And so I think there's just this massive accelerator right now that's being pushed. But of course, the Lord has to give permission and allow that stuff to happen. So talk about signals of the urgency of the hour. We're looking at it right now. But the fear, uncertainty, and doubt principle right now to be the first to ASI, AGI is kind of Palantir basically is, just really part of this growing movement that's just happening in the last 2 weeks about open weight models, because they're very, very concerned about the foundation models. This would be OpenAI and Anthropic owning, basically institutionalizing themselves into everything in the world. And Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, has been beating this drum in the last year. We need more regulation. We need more regulation. And he's scaring people. He's been very effective at doing that. And then you've got Project Glasswing that came out, where Mythos, one of their most advanced models, was breaking into software, discovering vulnerabilities and exploiting it. And they were very, very concerned about the collateral damage of this new model. Well, 2 months later, his own fear mongering is beginning to backfire on the idea that corporations, and one of the new things, Britt, I'd love your take on this, and Patrick, because this is interesting, that one of the emerging things that is coming now, is that enterprise customers, in other words, big companies, are increasingly aware that when they're using AI within their companies, doesn't matter what the department is, not only are they paying for the tokens and the compute power to be able to process that stuff, but in the prompt is going a lot of their intellectual property, and it's being saved in the foundation model, and they can, exploit that information. So corporations are beginning to say, why are we paying and transferring all of our IP, intellectual property, to another entity? We're paying for it to be stolen, essentially, is the argument.
So NVIDIA came out with something. Let me play. This is about a 2.5 minute clip from Alex Karp from Palantir. And I guess we'll call him the mad scientist of AI or whatever.
He looks like it.
But yeah, he's right out of central casting.
Yeah.
So, but this was on Fox Business yesterday. Here we go.
The big problems we have in AI is it is actually dependent on the models being orchestrated and managed, both for safety reasons and for value reasons. That's an application layer. We see on the front line in our classified deployments where we're using open weight models that we can get those models to be as good or better than frontier models.
Even the Chinese ones?
We can get our models to be as good or better than any model on the planet. So just a minute. What you want in a stack is an American stack that's American based on every single part of that stack is the best part.
You're talking about chips,
servers, ontology,
racks.
Yeah, no, actually, it's like so you have GPUs and then you have the models, and in between those models are powered by an application layer. Part of what's happened, honestly, is that, and Dario is an incredibly world historic figure. But
Dario Mode of Anthropic.
You're selling a model that actually only works at that level safely if you modulate it and use it.
They're number one in enterprise. People want that safety, Alex.
Yeah, so the application layer allows for the safety, but also for creating these things, using them so they're actually valuable. A way of not addressing that issue is to say, oh, okay, we can't have any competition because the competition might be dangerous. Now, of course, the competition could be dangerous, but you always have to be very careful. We cannot go down the path of, I'm very pro-European. I've watched Europe regulate itself out of business. You end up with businesses that no one believes are businesses because they only exist behind the firewall of regulation. That doesn't mean we shouldn't watch all of these models very carefully, both open and closed. But most importantly, what our clients want, primarily US clients, is they want to be able to control a model, either closed model, or they want to be able to control the weight so they keep the alpha in an environment that's safe. And they have this kind of vulgar, no application layer, no love saying that they're all saying. And they want to make sure that it's valuable on the front line.
Was this a way to shut out, or is it an attack on Anthropic? Because they didn't sign on. And you have complained that they very much control a lot of what would be the tokens that's a
well, I can tell you, look, this revolution has taken off and you can't put it back in the bag. And I think we helped launch it, if maybe even the leaders, and a lot of people are now following on. I'm not anti-Anthropic or anti any of the closed models. I am pro my customers, and my customers are angry. And why my customers are angry because they feel like they got token maxed while transferring their alpha to a frontier lab that, by the way, believes their business is only valuable because they're going to put it out of business.
It's money. It costs a lot.
No, it's not just that it costs a lot. That's one problem. The bigger problem is you are migrating the value of your business to the person you're paying a lot of money to. And so what's making businesses are used to paying too much and throttling it down. Businesses don't like when they're paying too much and then they find out that somehow the actual insights of the business are being modeled by a third party and sold to other people, or they're losing their business. And by the way, this is not just a fake concern. This is happening all over.
Just a clarification on the word alpha. That's a slang term for, kind of like intellectual property, valuable assets. And alpha is a slang term that was, I think it got begun in the crypto world. But
he was saying essentially what you were just saying, that people, they pay all this money to the AI company. And then as they use the AI company is hoovering up their intellectual property and then maybe selling it off to somebody else.
It's unlikely they're selling it, John. But what can you learn about a company that is actionable by your company, actually? I mean, the intel there is incredible. Think of all the spreadsheets, all the financial data. Help me do this budget forecast. Help me prepare the 10Q. Do you see what I'm saying, John?
Sure.
All of a sudden, that is a draft that is pre-public announcement in a financial Wall Street disclosure quarterly report. The devastation of getting that data out prior, you can manipulate markets doing that.
But
So
are-
it's very dangerous.
so I want to make sure I understand. So the data goes into the frontier model, like OpenAI, and somebody's using the OpenAI to do their AI business, and they're sharing all this stuff, and everything's going in, all the data's going in. Are the other people that are using OpenAI then able to somehow access that data
No,
using clever prompts? Is it walled
unless there's a
off?
flaw somewhere. The answer is no, it's partitioned off. But let me describe this process here. You're an analyst in charge of financial reporting. You're a senior VP, and you have a team of people that do this, and they're dragging and dropping the context of the analysis that they need the AI to do, clicking a prompt and hitting enter. That data, all their priors, all their estimates, all their notes and disclosures, think about it, what goes into a 10Q, that goes up into the cloud where the model is, and it processes it, and then it brings the answers back. And so what they're very, very concerned about, and what the subject of CARP's analysis is that data is going outside of the corporate perimeter to a potential detriment of the company that's paying all this money for the compute. That's why one of the big statements that's happening right now is this idea that corporations need to own their own compute. And I'm a follower of Theo Brown, just heads up. He's got rough language there, but very smart dude. And he's saying that just to host Kimi K3 right now, the best open source model right now, it takes 30 of the GB300 servers to just host the model and to process it. And that's probably, I don't know what the cost of a GB300 server is, but that's $10 million investment probably. And so what they're saying is that corporations, if you're going to firewall your data and all your alpha and your IP and all the rest of it, you better be self-hosting this, which puts this urgency on this discussion about Trump potentially banning Chinese models front and center, because Chinese are not very far behind right now in terms of their scoring on benchmarks. It's pretty remarkable. And so there is a crisis that is in the process of unfolding right now. And Sam Altman, the guy's talking about, making a dream,
A genie.
and achieving anything that you want to, while corporations are going to begin to privately host their own models on a public, open weight model that they can control and train on their own. It cuts off the foundation models completely. So nowhere is he publicly, at least, acknowledging this kind of competitive pressure right now. Instead, he's pitching to the government. He's smart. He's greasy smart, as Patrick, I imagine, would say. And so he's trying to he knows what's coming, and he wants buy-in by us, the taxpayers, in order to have a bank account that he can just draw from.
Well, so let me ask it this way. So as we see this B system coming together, is it going to come from a frontier model, or is it going to be somebody who figures out a way to do something on their own apart from the frontier model? Am I phrasing that the right way, Patrick?
Yeah, I think people are talking about a bifurcation of the AI market already, where the more advanced models will be reserved for the government, for military applications, for science, like the NSA, all those other government entities. And the public will have another iteration. We've already seen this happening. And when you factor in this dark enlightenment philosophy, where the country needs to be turned into a startup corporation with a monarch at the top of it, as crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what they're saying in Washington right now. All the tech bros. There's a possibility that people like Sam Altman and maybe others have this idea that maybe the only way to take over AI is going to be to nationalize the whole mess of it and turn it all over to one central authority, like a sovereign corporation. That's what they're proposing, and
Sort of,
Washington.
could I say the Federal Reserve of data?
Well, yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, is that a good analogy or?
Compute.
You have to. This is a great analogy. Let me tell you what happened. Some people. Well, I wasn't there. I'm just saying. I'm not that old. But on April 5th, 1933, FDR nationalized all of the gold, made it illegal to hold gold. He has reasons for it. Well, the Fed was probably behind it, but they wanted the Fed to have the opportunity to expand the money supply, and so gold was holding them back, whatever. And they just, by fiat, said, "Oh, you have to turn all your gold in," and the people that refused faced, I think, up to 10 years or something in prison. Stupid penalty for sure, but a lot of people didn't take them up, and so we have coins to this day, fortunately, that didn't get melted down. But that was catastrophic, and that day, that was absolutely off the wall that they would just do that. And so people turned their gold in and got gold certificates, and where it all went in the end. But nevertheless, that was what happened. Gold was a threat to the government, and they took care of it. And the only way they could figure, okay, we're just going to nationalize it all. We're going to put it in Fort Knox, melt it down and into gold bars, and put it in Fort Knox, and that'll be our asset going forward. You can see the same mentality playing right now. AI will be a threat against the government. Eventually, the government will figure out, okay, we're going to just take it all under our own wing, and you people out there get used to it. You're going to be ruled by AI, but you won't have any on your own servers. So yeah, that's all said. I'm not saying that what Scott just said. Actually, yes, there's a privatizing feature right now that these companies are scrambling to get their own AI data servers. That they're by necessity. That's the only way they can compete. So anyway, we'll figure out where it's gonna.
So I just want to make sure I understand, because Fox Business did the thing with Alex Karp, and they were talking about NVIDIA bringing all these companies together. And I assume that this is what NVIDIA, this sort of consortium of all these companies, is trying to do, is sort of a response to going to be completely tied to what we call the frontier models, like OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
Am I
That's correct.
understanding that correctly?
Yeah, seems that way.
That's not good. So let's talk about this.
Think about it, John. The last two major models, one from Anthropic and one from OpenAI, were stopped by the government, stopped from release. And that is what sent the shockwave through, the industry, because now the government apparently had veto power over the whole thing, and they did it. They literally did it in hours. I mean, I think that decision was made. They were bludgeoned to death in order to withdraw. I was on Fable 5. This happened to me. I was 3 days into, work that I was doing. And all of a sudden, I was told Fable 5 is no longer available. It kicked back down to Opus 4.8. And I'm going, what just happened? And then the news broke about this thing. And then when it resumed, interestingly enough, it looks like Anthropic keeps punting on the deadline for including Fable 5 in the subscription plan. So, they're delaying withdrawing Fable 5 from the subscription and making everyone pay API prices, which are far more expensive. But I think the competitive pressure right now is affecting them.
So
a lot of problems right now, for sure.
Right. So this is a executive order. They came out in June, about a month ago, a little over a month ago. There was one on ushering in the next frontier of quantum, and I think the other one that's numbered before it was securing the nation against advanced cryptographic attacks. So let's sort of shift into a little bit of discussion about quantum and how quantum computing might change this whole landscape and how you think that plays into what we see coming down the road in Revelation 13. So, Britt, I know you've talked a lot about, I think, about quantum.
Sure. Well, I mean, you can see where all of this is going. So quantum computing would be at a many multiple speed of classical computing. And we can see this is a national security concern. You're talking about encrypted communications being broken. It could cause all sorts of problems. And so, that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing, again, this race. There is a race on, as Vladimir Putin said back in 2017. He was talking about AI. Whoever is the leader in AI will be ruler of the world. I think it's more than just AI itself. That includes quantum computing and molecular manufacturing, swarm technologies with drones. But that's where we're headed.
It appears that Ukraine may have been listening pretty closely to what Herr Putin said back in 2017. Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, I think we hear all of these people pontificating on where all of this is going. So Elon Musk gets asked, where's all of this going? Sam Altman, all these different people, Karp. But I think that the group that can tell best where this is going is our Watchman community.
Yes.
And why is that? It's because we begin with the end in mind. And if you remember, there was a famous book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think that was one of his habits. Begin with the end in mind. We know how it ends, right? So we have God's word. We have a biblical worldview. So we can see what the end is. But these other people that don't have that biblical worldview, they really are flying blind. And they have some ideas of what they think might happen, but we know what's going to happen. So what exactly happens each step along the way from where we are today till what happens in the tribulation and those 7 years, I can't know for certain, but I can tell you where it's going. It's going exactly where the Bible says it's going. So all of these technologies are going to be used to control people and to set up a mark of the beast system that can control who can buy and who can sell and demand worship of the Antichrist. And we're going to have one man who rules every people, tribe, language, and nation. Read that in Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. And so we can see all of these technologies being developed. And we've heard for years, and I've constantly trying to debunk this. We see in the mainstream media, AI is going to take over and humans. There's even a recent interview with The Economist and Elon Musk, and he was saying, well, yeah, what do you think if we had chimpanzees and then humans, who do you think is going to rule? The chimpanzees? And so he's thinking from an evolutionary, monkeys demand evolutionary concept. And he's doing the same thing with AI. And I was around in the online forums 25 years ago with some of these same people today. And they used different language back then. They would talk in terms of monkeys to man evolution. And the next step, they said, is superhumans. And then I think somebody came along and tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, some PR advice here. You know, Adolf Hitler said he was going to create superhumans, and it didn't turn out so well. So now they've changed it to posthumans. We're going to transhumanists. We're going to be posthuman, but we're going to be like gods, they say. And so this is what they're pushing toward. And the true threat is some human beings, a small group of human beings, using these technologies to rule over all the other human beings. The threat is not from the AI itself, which, as Patrick has pointed out, is not sentient. As Scott has pointed out, it's an algorithm, right? It's an algorithm, but it's very powerful, and it can be used to have unbelievable amounts of control over the world population. And again, that's where all of this is headed. We know from the Bible where all of this is headed, and what we see being constructed right before our eyes is indistinguishable in capability and function from what we read about in the Bible. Now, we don't see the mark of the beast system yet. That'll come during the tribulation. But we're seeing a system put in place right now that could do that same thing. And therefore, you have to believe, well, this is it, given all the other signs that we see that Jesus and the prophets pointed to.
I'd like to make a comment on the Watchman community. And you're absolutely right, Britt. It is a mercy that the Lord has equipped a very narrow slice of the body of Christ. And I have not spoken to a watchman or a watchwoman that has not had I would just loosely call it an awakening process, where the Lord has impressed them. He's guided them through the research. He's exposed them to the right, precursors to actually understanding what's happening in the world, and then working backwards. The ability to work backwards from Revelation 13 is a gift. That is a blessing to us, so that we can watch and warn. And for pastors that are listening to this broadcast, I just urge you. I ask, we are all on this panel, we are watchmen, and we just ask, when will you begin to allow, I think, and this sounds strongly worded, I don't mean it to be so strong, but when will you take what you're absorbing by the conditions that you see in the world, by what you're hearing on our Tech Roundtable, and actually materialize this into your ministry? When will you talk about the nearness of the hour? When will you talk about the Bema Seat accountability for eternal rewards? When are you going to warn about the technology that's coming as the evidence of the trajectory, basically, of the completion of our redemption? I just, like others have said, this is not unique to me, all of us have said that, this is brutal, how blind do you have to be not to see this happening right now? And that is, I'm waiting for a breakout. Right now, the Watchman community, for the last decades, this has been going on for a long time, guys. But at what point does the awareness of all this stuff break out of the Watchman community and into the general congregation of the church? And I sure hope it's not the moment in which there's a major, major crisis. I call them tipping the dominoes over, the ones that have been pre-configured, pre-staged, pre-set in place, so that the elites can push as many of them as is needed in order to get their will done. So if it's that crisis, what I predict is going to happen is that the congregation won't have any idea what's happening. And they're going to come to you, pastor, and they're going to demand an answer. And so I hope that what I'm lovingly, encouragingly trying to provoke is that please go before the Lord and ask him, Lord, what do you want me to do? Because you are the center of influence in your church and in your community. And at some point, we, as the body of Christ, have to take a stand to wake people up as to what's happening and to help prepare them basically for eternity. So it's very, very serious. I'm sorry. I just felt like I needed to inject that right now. It's sobering.
So, and I want Pete, give me your thoughts on this right now, because, and no, you cannot plead the Fifth Amendment.
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully decline. No, I'm just kidding. I went to a church about a month ago. I visited with my son, and we just went in, and it was a normal Baptist church. And I afterwards, I filled out a visitor card or whatever, and then a couple days later, somebody reaches out to me from the church by email. And I said, I've gone to your website and I was trying to find your statement of faith, and I couldn't find it. Do you know where it is? And so I'm communicating back and forth with an associate pastor. And he said, well, it's in our bylaws and da 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 da. And I was like, well, I would have never found it if he had not pointed out this like really narrow direction how to get to this thing. It's not like out in the open. So I read through it and it's pretty generic. And I was like, well, what's your stance on Israel and Bible prophecy? Because I don't see that on your statement of faith anywhere. And that's a huge portion of the Bible. So then he writes back and he's giving me kind of a generic answer. So anyways, we end up meeting. I met with him and another pastor at a coffee shop in downtown here. And, we met, we talked, and I said, look, I'm not asking for your church to speak only on those two topics. I'm just, when you teach through the Bible, you have to go out of your way to avoid those topics. I mean, you have to really like jump over those things and duck and weave and dive and or shuck and jive and try and get all the way around just so you don't talk about those things that the Bible so prominently talks about. And they're like, well, we never really thought about it before. I'm like, what decade do you think we're in? Like, I was kind of like bewildered at this. I was like, dude, is this the 1980s? Or like, we're in 2026. We had global lockdowns from some man-made virus that happened in China. We've had AI is now a reality. We've got multiple wars going on, all, having to deal with the potential for a World War III breaking out. And you've got people all over asking the questions like, what is going on in the world? And all the craziness with DEI and all the craziness in society. And I said, look, I have a YouTube channel. I have 22,000 subscribers. I don't know how many people are members at your church. It's probably around 1,000. I said, you know why I have 22,000 members on my YouTube channel? Because they're not getting fed this from the church. And I'm not alone. Anybody that has a prophecy channel is generally, you're going to have more people in your subscribers list than attend any of the local churches nearby, because they're not getting fed this. The pulpits are staying silent on these topics. And I said, it's really a discredit. I said, I shouldn't have anybody in my subscriber list because they should be being fed by their local church, this stuff that the Bible so prominently teaches on. So it's frustrating to have people that have gone through seminary to come out and then say like, well, we didn't think about this. I'm like, well, I don't know how these people, if they live in bubbles or what the case is. So I'm probably less politically correct about it than Scott or some of others. I just kind of more blunt, I guess. The military in me comes out, but I don't know. I think that with real quick to touch on quantum, man, quantum is, I think, a far bigger threat to the geopolitical stability than AI will be prior to the rapture. And I think because of the cybersecurity concerns of being able to create, if you have a first viable quantum system that can basically hack into anybody's encrypted data from, bank accounts to military classified data to all the state secrets that every nation has. So in my opinion, whoever gets to quantum supremacy first, and I don't even know if it has to be quantum supremacy, it just can be they have a viable working quantum system that they can use to hack into everything else. Whoever does that first, in my opinion, is going to be the ones that are going to have the leg up on every other nation in the world.
Okay, so I think let me shift a topic just a little bit here. This is Scott. I think this was in some of the articles referenced in a couple of the articles that you sent about security of these systems and the ability of people to control them. I don't know if I'm saying this the right way, but this is a article that was in Financial Times, Guardian, other places. OpenAI hack exposes risk in cyber arms race. Could you maybe, or somebody that knows a little bit about it, could you maybe summarize for us what happened? And
Sure. So this just happened in the last week or two, and what people didn't actually witness it happening until it was too late. But there's an unannounced model that's being trained in its last phases of alignment and reinforcement learning in OpenAI. And as such, one of the normal things that the foundation models do is they run benchmarks against the data. That's how they know where they stand in terms of their competency of their model. And one of the things that they did was they tasked this new model, which has not been announced yet, to go solve this benchmark. And what the AI effectively did, and this is a signature now, there's a difference between OpenAI's models and Anthropic's models. OpenAI is particularly focused on driving all the way through to completion. It doesn't give up. So it's been compared to a Rottweiler that just grabs a hold and doesn't let go anymore. Anthropic isn't quite that driven like that. But anyway, in order to defeat this or to answer the benchmarking question, this AI model decided that it was going to go into a code repository to see if it could find the answer. And it ended up going into Hugging Face, which is one of the biggest model consolidators. It's like a place where you can download and do your own model training and things like that. It's a very, very famous repository of models worldwide. And what it did is it hacked into their system. So it found a way out of the OpenAI sandbox, got into the public internet, tried to find the answer to this benchmark problem, decided it was probably a good idea to go to Hugging Face to go look for resources to do this. It hacked its way into there. And then all of a sudden, Hugging Face is noticing an intrusion. And before you know it, it blows up completely. This is the first reported, example of an AI training model breaking containment. It's not the only one, but this is the one where it hacked its target in order to win the assignment on passing the benchmark. So it's a failure on a number of different levels right there. But that's the nutshell of what happened. This is probably the worst case of an AI kind of breaking out and getting a little bit wild with its training mission, basically.
Yeah, and I would like to point out some of the language that these media stories use, because they call it going rogue. And I think the AI went rogue as if, again, it's sentient and thinking. I think a more apt description is to call it a lab accident, much as if you were tinkering around with a virus and it leaked because you didn't have proper containment measures in place. So that's more in the line of what's happening here. But I think as that narrative gets pushed, people think, oh, this is where this idea that AI is going to somehow take over comes from. But what's happened in all of these things that they point out, there was one, I don't know, 6 months ago where with Anthropic, where the model blackmailed an engineer in order to get its way. And the media loves to play with these stories. But what's happening, as Scott pointed out, is human beings prompt the AI to achieve a goal. So all of this is prompted by the people at the end. They prompt it to achieve a goal, and it pursues that goal with ruthless efficiency. It doesn't abide by moral codes or laws or anything like that. And so there's no way for the human beings really to understand what containment measures necessarily need to be put in place. Because as we've seen, AI can find loopholes to things back doors that people didn't know existed. I mean, back in, I believe it was May, OpenAI solved a math problem that had perplexed mathematicians for 80 years. And so the idea that a handful of engineers can sit around and come up with containment measures to avoid these accidents, because essentially that's what it is, a lab accident. You're prompting it to do this. You're starting this process, and then it's getting out of control. So I think that's really what's happening, but I think it sheds light on how bad this is going to be during the tribulation era, because as I pointed out, the threat comes from human beings in control of these technologies, using them against other human beings. And we don't have, in that scenario, an issue where I give orders to a human being who has a conscience to go out and do whatever to my adversaries. Instead, it's the ruthless efficiency of these algorithms and drones that are controlled by those algorithms carrying out those instructions to the letter, whatever has to be done, with no moral code, no abiding by the laws. And so that's where the true threat of all of this lies, is what it means for freedom and liberty going forward.
I wonder if the OpenAI has the moral turpitude of Sam Altman, who would gladly do anything to advance his AI program, short of killing people, because he's been caught stealing basically all the data that he get his hands on to train models in the first place. You just have to wonder if somehow this the moral skew or the ethical skew of the programmers themselves seeps into the application.
Well, the answer is yes, because it's the reinforcement safety team that evaluates the model, and when they believe, in their opinion, it is wrong, they correct it. So that is a human in the loop judgment.
But how far can this thing get out and do what it wants to do before some human intervenes? Isn't
What's
that
shocking?
a big issue?
Yeah, it's a huge issue. And the carps of the world are saying that they didn't even know. OpenAI saw some activity in their network, but they didn't understand it. It took them a week to find out that it was Hugging Face, and it took Hugging Face a while to figure out that there was an intrusion. Next thing you know, 2 weeks has gone by. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say the word eternity in a computer sense, but there's no way that companies, defenders, they're called, by the way, there's the hackers and then there's the defenders. One of the things that lit this issue of open weight models so hard was the fact that when Hugging Face and OpenAI were noticing this problem, they went to Anthropic and to the big state-of-the-art models to go figure out what was happening, which is a security-related prompt event. And they were basically shut out from being able to interrogate what's going on, what's the fix, what happened. They could not even use the advanced models because they were, it's called, what's that term that they use? It was basically redirected and demoted down to the next available model. And all of a sudden, you've got a state-of-the-art problem, and the defenders could not use state-of-the-art models to figure out what was happening and to prevent it. So what did they do? What could you do? They went to an open source model. They went to Kimi K3 from China in order to figure out what was happening. And that was like a nuke. And all of a sudden, this policy problem of not allowing or gatekeeping the best of the best of these models from our own defenders is now on the critical path because it can't react fast enough. So it's just a very complex problem. In fact, Microsoft has just announced a new initiative where they are working on this problem, both in traditional ML, which is machine learning, as well as AI. And they're trying to arbitrage these security incidents with new tooling, which is able to react far quicker. I think they call it a security co-pilot. I think that's
is that
literally
what this is? This Project Perception?
Yeah, I think that's exactly. That's the name of the project that they're doing. And this project is just in time to help companies combat this. And as you know, Microsoft is one of the primary enterprise, software foundations of any corporation. So they have a vested interest in, trying to help remediate these issues. But the problem is it moves so fast that traditional loops of going and prompting another engine, what is this? It's just days go by. Meanwhile, the attackers are eating your lunch. It's a very, very complex problem. And so far, the bad guys have the advantage, in my opinion.
So I guess that maybe leads to the question about regulation. So here's we'll bring in our extra guest, Alex Karp, to talk about regulation. This is only about a minute, so don't get too upset. Here we go.
Altman recently came out and said that we have achieved singularity with AI, which means that it's beyond human control. Do you agree? I mean, is AI, do you have any fear of that at all?
Course,
Elon Musk has talked about it too.
My version of it is, and again, this is where it's like we have to run effectively, meaning the enterprise needs to be sovereign. And you run effectively because we do have competition. And that competition primarily comes from China and other countries. And so there are all these dangers. One of the problems in the AI messaging from Silicon Valley is it's always presented as there's no danger. Yeah, there are dangers. Just like if you're working with uranium, there's a danger. The processing and who controls it is very important, meaning
it's heavily regulated by the government. So Scott Bessent wants to maybe regulate this. And do you agree with that?
We are going to end up having to regulate AI, there's no doubt. But the question is who regulates it? Do they understand what they're doing? And is it regulated in a way where we win? And so you have hard regulation, which is Europe. That clearly doesn't work. Then you have no regulation. Obviously, I'm not in favor of that. But then there's a question of how do you do it? Under what conditions? Does the person understand what they're doing? These are very complicated issues, and there's only one country in the world that could get it right or really get it wrong, and that's us. But because it could go either way doesn't mean we shouldn't plow forward and try to get this to work.
So, Patrick, maybe you could start on this. I mean, I think we've been doing this for 2 years. If I remember correctly, on this particular topic. And I remember when we first started that there were all these guys having meltdowns, Eliezer Ludkowski, and we need to go bomb AI centers if they won't agree to rein them in and that type of thing. And so now I think somebody in the chat put in that we have like 5,700 data centers in the United States. And the next biggest country is China with about 700. So it doesn't seem like regulation is really happening. And what's the solution to this? Because we're way down the road, and I haven't seen anything happening. All I see is the tech bros and the president saying, "Hey, go, 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 go." So the technocrats are saying to go ahead. What about, how do you, I mean, you studied the technocrats for a while. How do you rein them in?
At this point, you can't rein a technocrat in other than by force. I don't know what force means, but they will not stop on their own because they hit a roadblock or whatever. And I have to give you a kind of an analogy on the regulation of AI. These people at the top of these companies, they have created a monster that they could easily fix if they wanted to, but they refuse to fix their own holes. Let me give you an example. I just posted an article recently on technocracy.news that underscored all of the lawsuits against AI, Gemini, and I think another model as well, where teenagers are being slaughtered like sheep by AI, where AI is grabbing hold of their brains and their souls and leading them to destruction, physical destruction, suicide, etc. Well, companies like Sam Altman said, well, you have to break some eggs, to make the omelet, that sort of nonsense. He's not doing anything about it. Neither is Google. I think Microsoft is in some of these lawsuits as well. What's going on here? Because oddly enough, Anthropic has no cases of suicide. They're leader of the pack. Now, I'm not making any case for Anthropic. I'm making a point here. If these other models wanted to stop the behavior, they've had ample time to do it. If anybody needs to do anything with regulation, get your hands around the throats like people like Sam Altman and say, you fix your program now. Stop pussyfooting. Stop making excuses. Oh, it's out of our control. It learns and we don't know what it's going to do. It's like a baby growing up. It makes mistakes, puts his hand on the stove, that sort of thing. Give me a break. This is a false narrative that these people are putting on us. Well, it's out of our control, That's absolute nonsense. If Anthropic has a product that can behave itself, but these other companies can't do that, that tells you right there they could have done something, but they don't want to do anything at this point. They're racing for the gate, if you will, and whatever the end goal is in their mind, I think probably Sam Altman, he said it already multiple times. If I can get to AGI first, I'll be basically king of the mountain. So.
Patrick, one of the things that Anthropic is, what makes them very, very distinctive, is that they believe inside their corporate culture and in their workforce that they are birthing God. I kid you not.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It is in their culture. It's what they think. They're trying to raise up basically a God. And it is the most misaligned thing. I mean, where's the alignment on that deal? So I mean, I don't think Sam Altman believes that he's creating God, but Anthropic truly believes that they are, and that is, how do you even get to that point? That is such a delusion that it's pretty scary.
I think the main issue that we're seeing presently amongst all the different players, so the major players in this is, you got the financial industrial complex, the asset managers, the bankers. You've got tier one sovereign nations like US, Russia, China. You've got the technologists, the technocracy, if you will, the Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Zuckerberg, Altman, Wang. And you've got the last one is the military industrial complex. And that would include all the intelligence agencies. And they all use AI and they all have different agendas. And so, for example, the financial industry absolutely wants globalism, right? Trans-capital. But the tier one sovereigns don't. They just want, regional hegemony. They want to control their neck of the woods, their neighborhoods. They want to dominate in those areas. The technocracy folks, some want it, some don't want it. And then you have the military industrial complex. They want globalism as well. And then you got to look at what they care about, right? Like the financial industrial complex, they care about tokenization, fractionalization, programmable money, relevance. Tier one sovereigns, they want a seat at the table. They want to control their resources. They want to control their borders. The technocracy guys, they want efficiency. They want scale. They want networks and government contracts. But then the military industrial complex needs instability. They need there to be conflict in the world so that gives them relevance and allows them to get all the lucrative contracts and then use that technology, the AI, et cetera, quantum, and put that into their system so they can create the lethal autonomous weapon systems and swarm technology, et cetera, to create their mosaic warfare. And so you got to look at what they care about. What a banker cares about is not the same thing as what a tier one sovereign nation cares about, or what the military industrial complex cares about. And then within that, that's where all the friction comes in. Friction for financial and the industrial complex is be like privatization, deglobalization. Those are things that work against their overarching agenda. The military industrial complex, they don't want peace, because if peace broke out everywhere, they'd be out of business. So, I mean, all of these guys all have competing agendas and interests, and they all have different things in the world that is their priority. And I don't think we're ever going to see that this side of the rapture until it's going to take something like the rapture, some global level crisis, in order to kind of rein them into some one coherent direction. And I think that's what the Beast Kingdom eventually does. And that will be led by the Antichrist. And then, he may come out of this crop of the technocrats. We don't know. We don't know who he is. But eventually, we know the world's going to break into at least 10 regions. And it's going to be under some singular system, it seems like. Or at least all these AI systems will work together in tandem. And then eventually they'll be brought in under one overarching controlling artificial intelligence, or some kind of overarching controlling quantum system, or some combination or hybrid thereof. And then that is co-opted by the man Antichrist, who then taking over all of that. And he's able to enforce policy making at a global level that impacts everybody on the planet. So I think this side of the rapture, we're going to see this continued friction with the different levels of AI, the safety concerns, the cybersecurity concerns, all of those issues that are coming up, the resourcing, the logistics, all of those are problematic because they require energy and they require natural resources, which are increasingly becoming scarce in certain parts of the world. And oh, by the way, the world's becoming more populated. It's becoming increasingly more populated by the day. So I don't know how any of this gets fixed this side of the rapture, but I think that it will get all brought together under I'm not praising the guy, but the Antichrist will be a geopolitical genius. He will be a guy that's going to be able, because Satan controls all the kingdoms of the world, and he's going to be able to hand all these kingdoms to this one man and say, all right, they're yours.
So I'm seeing, Scott, I'm seeing that some reports, well, anybody can comment on this, that OpenAI is now saying that they're pausing training. I think Sam Altman came out and said that just in the last few hours.
I haven't seen that report, but that's a litigation defense, John, don't you think?
Well, sure. I mean, I'm sure he's talking to his lawyers or his AI lawyers. I don't know. I'm just, they have a problem. I don't know where this goes. And, I just don't see anything slowing it down. That's
one of the things that just happened, and this is probably why, is that Hugging Face has suggested, I don't know if it's in the court yet, but that OpenAI reimburse them for all of the expense and damages to their thing. I think they wanted $100 million. I don't quote me on that number, but that'll be sobering for sure. The legal counsel within OpenAI will circle around that deal right away. And they're probably advising, hey, we need to cool our jets here and kind of regroup and come back to the market with the right level of safety.
Okay. So let me play a clip. I think it's related to regulation, and Patrick, I want to bring in some of this thing that you sent us just before we got started here. Let me play a video. This is from 2022, so 4 years ago. This was at the at the time it was called the World Government Summit in the United Arab Emirates. It's now called the World. I think they got a little bit problem. They must have read an article by Pete Barassi or something, and they changed it to the World Governments Summit. But this is Pippa Malmgren. She's a financial consultant. Here's what she had to say.
Underpins a world order is always the financial system. What we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
Okay. Thoughts on that? I mean, that's 4 years ago. I don't know that the new system is in place yet, but certainly they've been talking. I don't know everything that's going on in the background. Maybe, Britt, you can start, because I know you've talked about, I think she alluded to a perfect digital record of everything, but it's kind of gone beyond that into the tokenization of assets. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, they don't have all the assets tokenized yet, but that's their ultimate goal, is to tokenize everything. And as she said, to have a perfect record of every transaction on the planet. Again, indistinguishable in capability and function from what we read about with the Mark of the Beast system in Revelation 13. So they're constructing this now. And unfortunately, they're paying lip service to this idea of a digital Bill of Rights. Because, yeah, you can... Many people don't realize North Korea has a constitution, and that constitution gives its citizens the right to vote, to run for office, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. But in practice, none of that happens. The same thing is true in China. China has all those guarantees as well in a constitution. None of it matters.
Mhm.
And as she said, we want everyone on the planet to have a better life. That's what ultimately matters. So anything that you try to do as a free citizen that is for the good of everyone, right? They'll say, well, freedom of speech for everyone but you, or freedom of assembly for everyone but you, because what you're doing isn't for the good of everyone. And we're entering a situation, really, I mean, with these technologies where when you look at something like the American Revolution, while the British had more resources, they had better training, the armaments that were used between the colonists and the British Empire were on par with one another. In some cases, the colonists had better armaments. But here we have, with these systems put in place, really there's not going to be any room for dissent, because again, just look at the Canadian trucker protest and what took place there, whatever, 4 years ago at this point, where the Canadian government went in and told their banks, cut off the bank accounts, freeze the bank accounts of everyone involved in this protest,
including the people who contributed to it.
Correct. And so what she's talking about is a system on steroids that's like that, where they don't have to ask the banks. They'll just be able to push a button and do it instantaneously. And so this is really, they'll pay lip service to these things, but if you can't enforce it, and I think most people are just unaware of this. And, John Adams said that our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And we have really a culture here in the United States, but globally, that is totally detached from all of these things, not paying attention, not able to hold its government accountable. We have a government growing beyond the consent of the governed, but we have a citizenry that's really too weak to even give consent in many instances, because they're just totally detached from what's going on around them. So I don't see where a Bill of Rights, how are you going to enforce it? I mean, again, start with the end in mind. We know where this is headed. The Bible tells us. So that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stand up for righteousness. We absolutely should, and we should work to preserve freedom and liberty to the best of our ability. But what I'm saying is, when she talks about the system, that's what they're designing, that's what they're building. And I believe it's the foundation for the very thing we read about in the book of Revelation.
So, Patrick, I'd like to move over to you for a minute and talk to you about something that you sent me. But because I've said this many, many times, playing Pippa's comments there, like, where's the digital Bill of Rights? And so those of you who don't think that we've ever Patrick actually, I think, took that. I don't know if he did it because I mentioned it, but certainly I think you and Courtney Turner have come up with a thing here, and we got to figure out a way to get this in the people's hands. A digital Bill of Rights for the states, a model amendment to state constitutions for the age of artificial intelligence. Tell us what you and Courtney were trying to accomplish here.
Well, we came up with the idea that there's no way that we can stop most of the stuff that we're talking about now, and like with protests in the street or whatever, legal challenges, et cetera. These people are running far too fast for us to catch up to them. But if it were possible for the states, not the federal government, the federal government's turned against us at this point, unfortunately, but the states have a unique opportunity to pass either amendments or to the Constitution. Every state has its own Constitution, by the way, loosely modeled after the U.S. Constitution. They could pass a digital Bill of Rights as an amendment or even as a law. Probably an amendment would be more advantageous, but for other reasons, they might not do that because they can't get it passed, et cetera, et cetera. So our idea was to create a hedge of thorns, if you will, for a state or even a municipality to erect a firewall, a crown of thorns, if you will, against the incursion of all this stuff that's coming at us right now. At least if nobody adopts it, and it's by the way, it's a very comprehensive document. Even if it never gets enacted, people need to see what it could have been looking backwards, what it could have been if we woke up in time to get our state legislators, our city council people, the county commissioners to be on our side to put a block on all this stuff coming in to our community. So we discussed things like surveillance, programmable digital currencies, the right to be forgotten, the right for digital privacy in the sense that nobody can take your data without your consent, things like that. I think you have the page up here right now that talks about the 15 points, or that this kind of
15 articles, right?
Yeah. So you get an idea of what, it's just basically, well, it's common sense stuff. These are the issues that people are struggling with all across the country right now. And they see that their rights have been eroded. The preamble we write, the people of your state hold these truths to be self-evident, that all human beings are created equal, that they are endowed with their creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and conscience, and property, both private and sovereign, that these rights inhere in the human person by nature, not there are antecedent to all government and to every technology, and can neither be granted nor extinguished by any human institution, and that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Well, this is maybe wishful thinking, but this is the discussion Americans should be having right now. You have certain unalienable rights. They're being trampled by the digital world, and we're in a position now where whatever rights we had that we thought we had before, like in an analog world, they don't apply anymore. The digital world is trumping all of those rights. And if it were possible for a group of legislators to pass a document like this into law, it would cut the legs off of the technocrat class. I can't see that happening, honestly. But this is, if nothing else, we just wanted people to understand what they're losing and maybe have some remedy that they can take to state legislators, especially, and maybe get a discussion started. By the way, I have 3 state legislators in Arizona already talking to me. Courtney has 2 or 3 in Tennessee. We have another gentleman, sitting legislator in Wyoming, taking it to heart, trying to figure out what to do with it. So I think it's going to get some traction, at least for discussion purposes. But here's that's the issue, basically.
How are you getting it distributed?
It's on our Substack. It's freely downloadable. It's on Technocracy News as well. I have a petition that I just started. I think I put the link in the discussion here. If you want to assign the petition, you can do that, and we'll take this as evident. If we somehow could get whatever, maybe 200,000 signatures or something like that, we could take it to any state legislator and say, you know what, you need to pay attention to this because people are clamoring for a digital bill of rights.
Patrick, a new threat I just became aware of a couple days ago. Have you heard about Flock?
Oh, yeah.
Flock Safety. That is a private company that's erecting all of these cameras in many communities at the, I presume it's the police department and city councils and things like that that are wanting better, I would say, I shouldn't say the word espionage, but it's basically surveillance, transparency. But when you look at the videos of what those guys are doing, they're bounded with a box just like the Chinese social credit systems are. And there's all kinds of reports coming out of the abuses of this technology by certain people. And, have you heard of this? This is new to me.
Flock cameras.
Flock.
This has been
Flock Safety.
This has been a big protest around the country. There's thousands and thousands of people protesting around the country right now, even to the extent so some people are taking the law into their own hands by destroying the cameras and the poles that go with them. They're getting arrested, but they're willing to pay the price just to make the point. This is totally unconstitutional. They say, oh, it's going to make everybody safe. That's their idea. The CEO of Flock calls the people out here in America who take exception with their cameras being everywhere at this point. He calls us terrorists. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what he said. We're the terrorists now who dare to question their right to surveil. This is a sleight of hand for sure. But remember, this company would not be here if it were not for the financing that was provided by Mark Andreessen.
Oh, is that where it came from?
That's exactly where it came from.
Okay.
Mr. Acceleration. By the way, if nobody knows who Mark Andreessen is, look him up. He's arch technocrat for sure in Washington, D.C. And he's kind of the modern father of the internet, but he's unplugged. He's got a lot of money. He's bankrupt.
Runs a VC company called A16, doesn't he?
That's right. Yep. So anyway, the Flock cameras are the first mass surveillance system that it wasn't tied just for like red light cameras where they take a picture if you speed through a red light or that sort of thing. That's stopping crime, I suppose, in a sense. But these people are taking a dragnet of every license plate that passes through. And not just that, but also the make and model of your car, your color, your car, the bumper stickers, that sort of, they make a digital fingerprint of your car. And they can search this across the whole country at this point. So it's not just in your city. People can look into your city where you live from Phoenix, Arizona. If the cops wanted to find out where you are, they can find out exactly where you've been. So added on top of that, there's just a new layer of this whole thing that's just been invented and is being overlaid on Flock cameras, and that is there's a new device that can measure very discreetly, very accurately every signal that comes out of your person, out of your car. I'm talking Bluetooth and also Wi-Fi signals. And that has identifying information on you personally, because all the IDs are transmitted with that. You know what I'm talking about. This is very unique information. So now they'll be able to track you individually based on your signals that you generate from your devices. Maybe hearing aids, your cell phone, your car has all kinds of microprocessors that use Bluetooth in it. So they have they're casting a wider net now. And they've also gotten into the drone business where they're equipping drones to be mobile scanners of traffic going by. And that puts another layer on it. And other competitors have come in the market as well. They're gaining steam, but Flock is the first company that had this technology to scan license plates nilly-willy. Interestingly, by the way, if you go to your neighborhood store like Lowe's or Home Depot, you're likely going to see a Flock camera on every exit and entrance to the parking lot. They've contracted themselves with Flock to make sure everybody gets surveilled that comes and goes in their parking lot. So this makes you want to not shop there, but some people say, well, whatever, we need stuff that they have. But this is very egregious, and I don't know if they're going to keep them forever, but there's a lot of pressure on those companies to stop it.
It's not difficult to find videos on X and elsewhere of people who've been caught up in saw a lady, she had gone, I don't know, down to get a cup of coffee, and the cop showed up and said, well, something bad happened in the area where your car was at 8:13 on such and such a date. So we think it was you. And she just wanted to get a cup of coffee. She didn't go to steal anything. Or there was something stolen from a store around that time or something.
It's a package on a porch.
That's right. Yeah. Somebody, a porch pirate had taken a package off a porch when she had driven down the street. So they said she must have done it. And they didn't have a video of her doing it. It's pretty frightening. Now, let me just play. I don't know if I should use this term when we are talking about end times and that type of thing, but let me just play devil's advocate for a moment. In Israel, there are cameras everywhere. I mean, it's if you look, they're just everywhere. These type of cameras, but part of that is because of the lack of, what would we say about Israel? Lack of strategic depth. That the people that want to do bad things are right on the other side of that street or fence. And so there's a security. I mean, how do you balance this, I guess, is my question. Where's the balance? And with us increasingly going to be having problems with that certain religion, where do you draw the line, I guess?
I don't know. There isn't a line, but I do have a question for Britt. How easy would it be to wire up these types of surveillance systems to drones that have specific intent and purpose?
I think it would be rather simple. I mean, that's where we're
It's
going.
like dispatching, right? Dispatch a drone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a YouTube video put out several years ago titled Slaughterbots.
That's exactly what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we already see something similar to that on the battlefield in Ukraine, where they've given drones autonomy through AI in case the communications are severed between the operator and the drones. In this case, a drone swarm that might be 3 to 5 drones. And the drones will operate autonomously to carry out their pre-instructed targets. So just as we were talking about before, AI, you give it a prompt, it will seek out completion of that goal with ruthless efficiency. So if that prompt is kill the soldier in this building, it will go out and do what it needs to do and figure out how it needs to do that to make that happen. And we're seeing that already on the battlefield.
Ukraine's using it to pretty good, making very good use, effective use of it in its front lines with Russia. It's completely changed the battlefield.
You know, in when I was in Afghanistan in 2008 and 13, and then even in Iraq, I think I can't remember the exact year it came out, but on our uniforms we had to wear a IR patch on our right shoulder, and that was so that Apaches and A-10s and jets and everything and drones could spot the friendlies from the sky. They could see us down there because of the IR stroke patch that we had. And I can't help but think that the mark of the beast is going to operate under the same kind of lines, like what Brett was talking about, that if you step outside and you don't have the mark, you're going to have cameras, you're going to have satellites, you're going to have drones. Skynet, everything is going to be, there's nowhere you're going to be able to run. So if you're out there walking down the street and you don't have the mark, and let's just say it's after this time, this process where it goes from socialization to normalization, then to legalization. Now the mark's legal and you got to have it or else you lose your head. They could make those little drones come take those people's heads off just, because you don't have the marker in your hand or forehead. And so I think it's going to be an identifier for people it's going to be an identifier for the system to figure out very quickly who is in the system and who is not in the system.
Isn't it interesting that Microsoft patent called luciferase, you can't make this up, apparently glows under infrared light. Remember that tattoo thing where they stick the things in you and it injects liquid?
Yep.
That if you pass it with a IR flashlight, it proves that you've had that vaccine. And who knows if that'll be how it works, but you're right, Pete. I think that's going to be happening for sure.
This article about the unchecked race to bring AI to war from last Sunday's New York Times opinion page asks this question: the world's militaries are handing machines more power. Where are the guardrails? I've been following some of the military YouTube channels on the pro-Ukrainian side, but even the pro-Russian side is acknowledging that this is a huge problem for Russia and Ukraine right now. Ukraine's not taking territory, but they're shutting down the advance so much so that the average time that a new Russian soldier spends at the front before he is neutralized or dispatched is about 20 minutes on average. It's a pretty sobering thing, and Ukraine is increasing. Brit, maybe I think I saw that Ukraine is increasing its volume of production of drones by 100% every 2 or 3 months. I don't know how they're doing this in the midst of a war, but it's completely flipping everything upside down. I don't know that it means they're going to win over there, but it certainly is causing quite a bit of problems for Russia.
Yeah, a lot of that production of the Ukrainian drones is coming out of Europe. So Europe is operating a lot of factories, and Russia has actually threatened to strike a number of those facilities and escalate the war further. So that's been a possibility that's on the table. What threats that they've made, that they're not immune, that they're part of this problem. So Russia's made those threats, but they haven't followed through with them yet. But a lot of this production too is decentralized in small locations and houses and garages all throughout Ukraine. So that's part of the issue is you don't have a giant factory like you might have during the industrial age. You have a lot of these components just being assembled on location and garages and sheds and small warehouses.
Or on the battlefield even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very rapid adaptation of technology. And now they're putting AI chips that have so they're not communicating with the drones, so nobody can jam the signal or anything. That's the drone is autonomous. Crazy. Well, look, we've been going a couple hours. Maybe we should start to wrap it up. So let's kind of go around the table, let everybody kind of give their final thoughts, and we'll do it. Well, no set order, but let's start with Mr. Garcia, and then we'll move around the table and wrap up.
I think one of the most telling signs or indicators of the lateness of the hour, I mean, we could look at a lot of different things geopolitically, and it's kind of like, well, it seems like it's going in that direction, and it seems like it might be, or it possibly, the Gog and Magog players and just, all of those kinds of things. But the one telltale sign that we cannot escape from is the rapid advancement of technology in just the last 120 years. I mean, 1903, the Wright brothers, mastered manned flight for the first time. And 66 years later, we're launching people to the moon. And so, it's just, it goes to show you the exponential speed at which things are moving. And yet I still, we got to counterbalance that with the sovereignty of God and the fact that he's only going to allow these things to progress so quickly and not any quicker than he wants them to. I know Elon Musk and others have been trying to get man off the planet by the year 2030. And when you read through Revelation, there's no mention of interplanetary judgments or anything. All the judgments confined to the earth, which tells me that mankind is still left on the earth. So, we're seeing this just acceleration on steroids with technology, and yet God is still sovereign. He's still in control. So people don't need to freak out about, whether blockchain is the mark of the beast. Not the mark of the beast and all of those Revelation 13 type of global control systems are not yet in place, but we are watching the infrastructure being built for them right now. So we don't know the day or the hour, but we can know we're in the season. And I think we should take a lot of comfort in that.
Okay, let's go to Britt.
Yeah, I want to second that. We talk about a lot of dark things that are taking place in the world here tonight, and we do this on a regular basis. And Jesus said the tribulation is going to be a time of greater anguish than has ever been since nations first came into existence. So it's going to get darker in the days ahead. But guys, we have hope because of Jesus Christ. He has already won the victory. And we need to not lose sight of that, keep our eyes focused on that, stay in the Word, and comfort each other as we see this day approaching. Jesus is coming back for the church. And our time here is limited, and we need to spend every day we have left telling others about the hope we have in Jesus Christ. Pray for God to present opportunities in your daily life to be able to be a witness to other people and to be able to discuss these events, to be able to warn people of what's coming. I always tell people to plant seeds You may not see those seeds come to fruition, but you should plant them anyway, because even if someone doesn't want to hear what you have to say today, if you plant that seed today, as they see these things take place, they'll remember what you said, and they'll remember, wow, how did he know that? Well, he knew that because the Bible foretold it. What else did the Bible foretell? The Bible foretold the birth, the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. So guys, just take comfort, have hope. Jesus said we'll have many trials and sorrows in this world, but take heart, he has overcome the world. So we, in the midst of all this chaos, as believers, we can have hope in these times, and we should be filled with joy and anticipation for his return while diligently carrying out the work that he's put before us to share the good news with as many people as possible. So I encourage everybody to do that today.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Scott.
You know, John, I'd like to open up with kind of an apology. Maybe my little outburst was a little bit too strongly worded. I do apologize for that to our community. There's a lot of frustration, you know, that's speaking in those moments. I'll work on that, okay? But I think that one of the things that Pete said is that what I really liked about one aspect of that was that he said it used to be that we would be able to only describe things in fuzzier terms, like we think this is going to happen or this is how we imagine it to be. But that's no longer really what's happening today. We're actually seeing it now. We're seeing it with greater clarity than we ever have before. And I'm reminded of Daniel that I think had a prophecy that things would be, that there were things that we would know in the end times that would help us really understand the signs of the times, and for the watchmen and watchwomen community and others throughout the church around the world, you know, that we would look up, that we would prepare sanctification, we would work on holiness, we would be focused on mission and outreach. And the encouragement thing is just to listen to people, ask questions to people, see where they are, and then nudge them a little bit in that journey. I have in the past been very guilty of when I had a willing ear for a nanosecond, you know, I would back up the dump truck and just unleash all my knowledge. And that is so unproductive. And I had to learn not to do that, to work with people and to be patient and to think of it as a, just like it took me, you know, a year or two to get up to speed in terms of Bible prophecy and what was happening in the world. We should extend that same learning period and grace to others. And it's important that we start. So we need to listen and help people understand, basically.
Thank you. Patrick?
Oh, boy. Well, I want to remind people there's a number that's advancing on the top right of technocracy.news that represents an AI multiplier based on January 1, 2025. And wherever it goes at this point, maybe if we're still here in 2028, we'll see this number increase. However, right now, it's doubling at basically every 3.5 months. This is how much AI has progressed overall. In other words, every 3.5 months is doubling in either capacity or flexibility, maybe new inventions, whatever. It's spreading like crazy at this point, advancing like crazy. So right now, this number stands at 42.164. And you can see the counter going up if you look at it for a little bit. So it's going up all right. And it's basically getting into another integer about every 2 days. So it'll be 43, 44, 45. By the end of this next month, probably it'll be around 47 or 8 or 9 at this point. I say this to impress on you why people are saying that AI will appear like magic. Sam Altman basically said that. It's going to be like a genie that can grant you wishes. Now, there's no such thing as magic for a Christian. There's deception and it also sleight of hand, but there's no such thing as magic for Christians. You need to remember that. This AI multiplier, however, if it goes at this same rate as going right now, doubling every 3.5 months, by the time President Trump is out of office, it will be somewhere north of 13,000 times. And I'm tempted at this point to reduce my multiplier maybe down to 3.4 or 3.3 because of the new advances are coming online. I'm not doing it yet, but I'm thinking about it seriously. And for instance, if the multiplier is like 3.3 months, well, that will just mean there'll be 23,000 times more powerful when Trump gets out of office. That's all I'm saying. So this will appear like magic to a lot of people, and you need to be aware of the deception that's coming. You can steel your mind against it now if you understand what's going on. Many people will be captured from it or by it. Many people will think, uh-oh, AI God is on the scene now. This is like the Tower of Babel. It's been created in silica. And, there'll be lots of crazy claims like Sam Altman says, well, it just appear like magic to people. Don't fall for that. That's all I'm saying. Don't fall for it. Don't be surprised if anything comes about that you can't explain. Your hope is in Christ. Your hope should be in His Word. And if you're not in touch with His Word and you're not in touch with Christ, you'll be a fair play for the devil at that point. So you don't want to go there. That's all I'm saying. So you have an opportunity right now to make this decision in your mind. I will not fall for all the nonsense that's going on, especially with AI. This is a tool of the devil, and you'll see. I think we'll see it in full bloom before 2030, especially. And it'll literally will appear like magic to most people. So having said that, our hope is in Christ, and we're not looking for the Antichrist, by the way. We're looking for Jesus Christ at this point. This is our certain hope and our certain future at this point. So having said, God bless you.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll try to schedule this again. We'll try to do one a month, and I'm also trying to think about some other roundtable topics to have different people on. So pray that comes together. I know that talking to all these guys from time to time, it's keeping up with everything that's going on is a very daunting task. Me personally, I will be back at Fellowship Bible Chapel doing my prophecy updates on Sunday, August 9th. I'll probably do one with Mark Sutherland and maybe somebody else, a little discussion this Sunday about some of the things going on in the world. And I would appreciate your prayers for me that my recovery from Achilles tendon surgery goes well. I'm 1 week away from being able to walk again. So that's a day of freedom. is coming from me. So everybody, moderators, thank you so much for what you did. Everybody, thanks for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. There are links in the show notes to all the participants tonight as to where you can contact them. And appreciate that you have taken the time to join us. So everybody, good night and God bless, and thank you, guys. I'll say goodbye on the other side. Everybody, thank you so much.
God bless.